Well, well, well. Here we are, Club Book. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Club Book with Samantha Irby. I am not Samantha Irby. I am Joy Dolo, and I'm just so grateful to be your moderator tonight. Before I introduce tonight's guest properly, just allow me a moment to tell you a bit more about this unique series that is bringing her to us. Club Book is a program of MELSA, the Metropolitan Library Service Agency, made possible through Minnesota's Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and coordinated by Library Strategies, part of the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. Love St. Paul Public Library. You haven't been there? Get there. It's awesome. Dakota County Library is the co-organizer of this evening's talk. Thanks also to partnering bookseller Red Balloon Bookshop. A purchase link to Quietly Hostile and Sam's other books will be available in the comments section of this live stream feed. You can have it shipped, pick it up at their lovely store in St. Paul, which is right by my house. It is a cute store. Or you can have them deliver it personally to your door if you're close to the area. One final housekeeping note for everybody. In the comments, you'll see a survey link. Melissa would greatly appreciate hearing what you think of this book club book, not book club. That's a different thing. This is club book, but they want to hear from you about the program. So it's quick and easy. If you have a second afterwards, just please get in there and type around. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum. Our guest tonight, Samantha Irby, is a comedian and a New York Times bestselling essayist and memoirist. Her fresh, honest brand of humor first came to the attention of readers through her blog, Bitches Gotta Eat. Irby's first essay collection, Meaty, adapted and expanded her most popular blog entries and added some new ones to boot. Topics truly run the gamut from personal reflections on the author's failed relationships, can relate, and on being Black in America, can relate to a ribald take on her struggles with Crohn's disease and an ode to tacos. Irby's follow-ups, We Are Never Meeting in Real Life, and Lambda Literary Award winner, Wow, No Thank You, also my favorite title, cemented her reputation as a comedic voice like no other. Irby's latest collection is Quietly Hostile. So good. In the words of Chicago Reader, the Midwest's most lovable misanthrope triumphantly returns with essays that are equal parts raw and side-splitting. The subjects range from her childhood traumas and adulthood anxieties to pop culture obsessions and her own TV pilot. Please, please help me welcome Samantha Irby.
Hi, Joy.
Hi, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I can't see anyone, but I assume that there are hundreds of thousands of people tuned in.
There's a roar right now. It
Yeah.
is impossible to hear.
hmm Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, it's tough. So thank you so much for joining us. We are excited to hear more about Quietly Hostile and your process in writing the book. But a very important question I want to ask you first and foremost is what are
Mhm.
you reading right now? Like
Oh
what's
my God. Okay.
yes,
So I
tell
am
me.
reading a banger of a book right now. It just came out.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say the woman's last name, so if I mess it up, please forgive me, but maybe she'll get some sales. So, money is the most forgiving thing. It's called Tilt by Emma, and I'll just spell it Pattee. So I don't know if it's Patty or Pate. I feel like an idiot saying it either way, but it's about this woman who is 9 months pregnant, like heavily, heavily pregnant. She's in IKEA shopping for a crib, and a massive earthquake. She's in Portland, and a massive earthquake hits Portland while she's in this IKEA, and she gets buried under some boxes and has to dig her way out. And then she doesn't have her phone, doesn't have her car keys. She just starts walking, and it's incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
Is it like apocalyptic? Is it like is it like what's the genre?
It's not apocalyptic. I mean, I guess in the way that any sort of natural catastrophe like feels apocalyptic, it isn't really. Um, she's just dealing, it's like in the present day, and she's dealing with this modern disaster that she wasn't prepared for, with the added, I mean, I think it's so interesting and smart. I don't have any kids, I haven't given birth, um, but from the perspective of a woman who's in this insane, scary crisis and is not just worried about herself. Like, can I feel my baby? Is the baby moving?
Mhm.
I need water for my baby. It's just, it's incredible. It's really good. I'm like halfway through. It's riveting. I mean, I feel like riveting is a word that people just say, but this one really is.
Yeah. So
It's
by Emma.
fiction. It's
Yeah.
fiction. I mean, I guess people would know that it's fiction, but you didn't miss a major earthquake in Portland. She made it up.
Emma Pate and Petiti. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I'm totally into fiction and nonfiction, historical fiction, all that stuff. But we are here to talk about your work and your essays that you've been
Wow.
writing. And let me just say, like, Quietly Hostile is freaking hilarious, first of
Thank
all.
you.
It's so funny and sharp, and I just can relate so much with all the leaking. My sick days, I just felt seen, like all the things that are
hmm
just coming out of my body that I have no control over.
hmm
What inspires you to write so bravely?
Oh, well, that is very nice of you to say. I am obviously a clown and I love to make people laugh. Um, as for the bravery of it all, I mean, when I first started writing, I was blogging on like MySpace,
Hmm.
that old relic, which should be brought back. Tom, if you're listening. Um, and I just had the freedom of thinking that no one was reading it because maybe like two of my friends were reading it. And I don't have, I should have boundaries. I don't have many. And I also don't, like, my parents died when I was 18. So I did not have the sort of like, you are shaming the family. No one was around to tell me no. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, okay, I'll put my entire business on the internet. And then once I get the feedback of people like enjoying it and actually reading it, then that's just gasoline on the fire. I'm like, oh, I will write about every orifice then. Oh, you like that butthole story? Here's one from the front. So it does not, I will say that it does not feel like, it's not like harrowing for me to sit down. You know what I mean? Like, what, people I think that I go through a like struggle of what to say and what not to say. And I'm already saying it like as it's happening. There really is, if something bad or embarrassing or disgusting is happening, I'm already thinking, how can I write about this? How can I
Yeah.
milk this horrible experience for everything it's worth? So it doesn't feel, I never have to like coax myself. There are some things I'm not ready to write about, and so I don't, right?
Mm.
Like
Yep.
if I don't feel removed from it enough, then it stays inside. But once it's been processed through the trauma mill inside me, it comes out almost prepackaged and ready to be read by someone I've never met before.
Yeah. Well, hello. I read it.
now
I
now
yeah.
that we've met, you can be like, oh, my friend Sam talks too much about stuff she shouldn't.
Well, I mean, specifically, I mean the chapter about the nuns in this.
uh
Oh my God,
I
so good.
think I go to a place. I mean, this is the true my true strategy when writing things like that no one else should know. I truly have to imagine that no one is going to read it. Like, I
Yeah,
convince myself that it's just between me and the computer, and then maybe my editor if I send it to her. But in my mind, no real people are going to read it. And then, like, my friend's parents will read it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I put that in there. I didn't know you could. I didn't know you could see that. But no one has scolded me yet. But like, I do have to push the audience out of my brain in order to do some of the the thornier, trickier
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. When I was reading it, I felt like you were talking to me, like you were my best friend. She wrote this for
I
you.
am.
Oh my
I
gosh.
did. I wrote it for you.
I knew it. I knew it all. So, I mean, it can't be ignored that we are, people of color, and
Yeah.
so I mean, people try to ignore it, but you really can't.
Hmm.
And I just wonder, like, what your experience as a writer, like coming up in the field, like working in Hollywood and doing that, how that correlated with your career or changed some of your writing or influenced some of your essays.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a couple questions, so I'm going to give you a couple answers. I my parents were old when I was born, and I don't mean like old. They were 40 and 50, which now as a 45-year-old is not old, but it is old to be having a baby in 1980, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I come from like old Black people who were from the South and DC. My mom was from DC, who were very much like, writing is not a job,
Mm,
go to work.
mhm.
So for me, the writing has always been like my fun side thing. I just started writing full time like less than 10 years ago. And
Oh,
still, like to this day, I'm like, this isn't really a Black people job.
wow.
Like, they're gonna take this away from me in a minute. So I still have like the voice of my parents in the background being like, that is not real. Go learn to do hair. So like that's like part of my, you know, I hear my dad being like, can you fix a carburetor? And I'm like, no, I'm a doughy creative. No, I can't fix literally anything.
Yeah.
Um, so in that way, just the idea of this as a life and a job is crazy. I'm like, what Black people are doing this? I mean, we are now,
Yeah.
but it still seems a little surreal. As for like the Hollywood of it all, in publishing, I okay, this is the one time I'm gonna toot my own butt and say that before, okay, I'm not gonna say I'm the first person to do this, right? To blab too much on the page, but I think because of how successful my books have been, it's kicked open a lot of doors for people who look like me,
Mm.
which I feel very grateful for. When my agent and I first went out with my first book, it was like, who wants this? You know what I mean? Like, who wants this? We got some like truly laughable offers. And then I think like being a proof of concept makes me feel good every time I see a Black essayist. I'm like, yeah,
I'm
there
so,
we go.
yeah.
But Hollywood is weird because, I mean, first of all, no one tells you the truth ever. They will tell you you're amazing, you're hilarious, I love you, you're wonderful, I love this work. And then they're like, but I don't want your big black show.
Uh,
Um, and I think I'll never know because no one will ever admit it, but I did hear the words too niche um
oh.
a few times, and we know what niche means. And then one place was like, we already have a fat Black woman show. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, well, thanks for saying that. Um, and I mean, I think because it's not really what I want to do, having the kind of job in Hollywood where I don't have to be in Hollywood or New York is difficult. It's difficult. So it was never a dream. Like, I do not want to move to LA. I want to like zoom in from Michigan and be done at 5 p.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Hollywood is not really like that. So I got to take whatever jobs come my way that are willing to put up with, me being home eating casserole. Um, but it did I did wonder if if the show were about a white queer woman, or honestly, if the show were about a thin woman. Like I mean, that's the one thing about being black and fat. It's like, do you do you hate my size or my color or both? There's many ways to beat myself up for not I could have many causes for not getting the things that I want. Um but also, like, it doesn't that's like a cherry on the sundae.
Yeah. Hmm.
If it had worked out, okay. I mean, shows are tough because more people watch TV than read books, and I feel like more people would be tearing my fictional counterpart apart week after week if
Oh,
I had a show. So I'm kind of like, well, that's good we didn't do it.
dodgeable.
We
Yeah.
didn't have that. It was a nice experience. I got to write about it. I got to see how they make fake dog poop. But like, it's time for me to go back to doing what I do best, which is like, whining in front of my laptop.
Well, you do a lot.
But
Yeah.
I will say, like, one thing about being black and trying to pitch a show, I I was at Showtime, RIP, but I was at Showtime, and in the meeting, I don't know what came over me, but I was just like, we don't have any shows about weird black people. We don't.
Mhm.
Like, there's either like this end of the spectrum that's like The Wire and everybody's suffering and struggling,
Yep.
or we have, like, at the time when I was pitching this, like, Blackish was really big,
Yep.
and it was like, oh, he has a room-sized shoe closet. There was like very little in between. And I was just like, hey man, I just want to make a show about a black girl who listens to Radiohead. And the guy in the room was like, I love that. And then they called my agent and they were like, fuck that bitch. No, they didn't say it like that, but they were like, no, thanks.
No, thank you.
Have fun listening to Kid A.
Well, and that's why I think this book is so great too, because you are able to put your experiences in there, and it can make Black women or people of color feel like fully rounded human beings. Like we
Hmm.
all leak and have sexual desires, and sometimes it's
Yeah,
and like it just makes it more human in a way. And I think that's
yeah.
so important for this world, especially like being a Black woman and knowing that we come from such caricatures of like the Mammy and Aunt Jemima, and it's
Hmm.
we are fully realized sexual hungry people, and I think
Yeah.
these stories are,
Mentally ill.
yes, absolutely, all the medication I'm on
We
now.
are mentally ill. We poop
Yes.
our pants. We
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do it. I'm
We
here to
cry for
tell
no
you we can
reason.
do it all.
I cried an Inside Out like 3 times. Like, I don't care who knows it. Um, we do have a few questions that are coming in. If anybody wants to ask, feel
Okay.
free to go into the Facebook and
Oh
type up
yeah.
questions. But first up, we have from Jen Sex. She says, "Hi, Miss Irby." Thanks, Jen. Sam,
Hi.
Quietly Hostile was my first book of yours I've read. It was a lot of fun to read. What book so far that you've written was your favorite to write?
I okay. Wow, no thank you is probably my my favorite in the writing of it all, because my first book, okay, I mean, you don't want to hear this whole journey, but my first book, Meaty, came out on an indie press, and then I got a real publisher. Well, indie presses are real, but the one I was at was not. Let me
Yeah.
clarify. And so then I put out a book on a major publisher, and it hit the New York Times list, and it was a whole thing. And that's really validating and made me feel like I could, like, really do this. And so coming off that, I was at like the top of the world. My publisher was so happy. Everyone was telling me I was like a beautiful genius. They were lying to me, but I don't care. And so I really went into that book like super confident and like I can do this. Everything I think is so funny. Everybody's going to love this. And like I really went into writing it with a big boost of confidence and it did well. It came out in the pandemic and everyone was home reading my book, thank God. But then after that, because that was so successful, like even more successful than the book before, I felt a lot of pressure going into this new one. Um because it's like, oh well, now I have expectations to live up to. And I'm very much an aim low kind of guy. I'm like, don't expect too much and you'll
Yeah.
be just fine. Um, so when the expectations were higher, I felt like, ooh, okay, this can't be good by accident. I have to make this good because I want it, because I'm like working for it to be good. So
Right.
wow, no, thank you is like, you know, I love all my children, but that's the one that does their homework and comes in on time, doesn't give me any sass.
Text you when they're going to be late.
Yes, yes. Gets me cards on my birthday. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. From Annette, I have heard Mindy Kaling say similar things, that she opened the doors in Hollywood for people who looked like her. Did you have any inspirations growing up, queer or otherwise, who you looked up to personally or professionally?
Yes. Put a funny black lady, especially a fat one, on my TV, and I am thrilled. I loved Nell Carter.
Hmm.
Give Me a Break was everything to me. What's happening? Just and like not to beat the fat drum too hard, but but it is so rare that you see a big woman who is not the butt of whose size isn't the butt of the joke,
Hmm.
um being sexy and being interesting and having, experiences. So, and I was born in 1980, so like watching What's Happening, um Nell Carter, one of my current lifelong obsessions is Monique, the comedian.
Yes.
I mean, she's just so funny. I know we hear about her now because she gets in a lot of mess, but she she was a huge inspiration to me. And I love comics. Like I've watched I've watched a lot of stand-up comedy, but I've listened to a lot on record because remember I have old parents. um and I sort of like structure. I mean, I'm always doing a bit, right? And I try to structure some of my stuff like some of my essays are like a very, very, very long form joke that end on a punchline. And that comes from watching like Monique, Paul Mooney, Richard Pryor, Eddie. I mean, yeah, yeah, those are my
What do you think of like
inspirations.
SNL nowadays? Do you watch that?
I do watch it and I think it's funny. Is that like a bad opinion?
I think it's like one of those things when people say they like Nickelback, it's like you're not supposed to say it, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
But it's been on for 50 years. Somebody is watching it. I'm
Yeah.
watching it. Now, I do watch it the next day on Peacock, so I don't have to sit through the commercials. And also because I can't stay up from 11:30 at night till 1 in the morning. But I do, not every sketch hits, but
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I have my faves. I love Ego. I
Yes.
love Keenan. Marcello, I would take a bullet
Hmm.
for. He is so
Yes.
funny, so cute. I mean, yeah, I'm into it. Honestly, I'm a very like I can sit through and enjoy anything. Like I'm very much like, I appreciate that you put forth this effort. So
Yes.
even like on the skits that bomb, I'm like, somebody wrote that. As
Yep.
a person who writes things that some people are like, I wish I could kill you. Um, I just like try to be generous and receive everything with an open heart.
Like I see what you were trying to do there. Good.
Yes,
Oh, I
I know
see.
it just didn't curl all the way over, but I saw where we were
And
going.
maybe people were tired, it's like maybe they just weren't there. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't you.
Yes,
It was all
yes,
them.
yes.
But anyway, so Michelle from Belmont said, have you thought about doing a children's book or a picture book a la Go the Bleep to Sleep?
Well, one of my first closest and maybe only friend in Kalamazoo, where I live now after moving here from Chicago, is a children's book author. Her name is Emmy Kastner. She has a series called Nerdy Babies, and then she has a book called like A Very Big Fall, um, and one about So Tortoise Doug. Like she's like the real deal. She's making books all the time.
Mm,
And we used to share a co-working space together. And every single day we talked about collaborating. And I think we don't work together anymore because I have an office in my house now, but uh maybe one day we will. Okay, but here's my fear.
yeah.
My fear is that we make a children's book, even if it's totally appropriate and like doesn't sound like me. I'm afraid of moms, right? I'm afraid people are gonna like look up my other work and be like, this lady is trying to talk to my child. Absolutely not.
Tell my child to have explosive diarrhea.
I mean, that would be a really good book, like an explosive diarrhea, what
The
to
river
do.
from
But well, now
within.
you're giving me ideas. But Emmy's a writer and an illustrator. And I was like, I could do the words and you do the pictures. So not yet, but like maybe that'll be like my second act.
Yeah.
I got to get all this disgusting stuff out of my system and like clean up my image and maybe start like going to church. Um and then I can write a children's book that won't get me banned from Southern Libraries.
One step at a time. There's a couple other questions, but I also know that you brought something to read, and I was wondering if now would be a good time to hear that.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't keep copies of my books around. I think that feels gross to me. I don't like to see them. So I have a printed sheet. I do have a working printer though, which is a brag. Um And so I'm going to read this little bit that you've probably already read. Um, so I'll start out by saying I am obsessed with whales. I love whales. I think they are so majestic. If you have not listened to the New York Times podcast, The Good Whale, do so. Like, write it down, make yourself listen to it. It is incredible. You will be weeping. My wife and I did a little road trip and we listened to it on the way and back, and we were in like stunned silence. And
Mm.
if you know me, for me to be in silence is a really big deal. So since we just listened to that, and because this is short, I don't want to bore you all to death. I'm gonna read. I don't even remember what the title is. Oh, I like to get high at night and think about whales.
Yes.
Also, this is from the unedited version that I sent my editor, so it might be different from what's in the book. Okay. I have this app on my phone called White Noise, and I pay $1.99 a month for ad-free, unfettered access to dozens of sounds I can set to play for 10 hours at a time if I want. Sounds like light backyard rain, or waves crashing on rocks, or evening bird chorus. which does not necessarily sound relaxing to me, but I'm not a bird person. I downloaded it one night at a hotel in Detroit where the only available room was Rolling Stones themed and shared a wall with the laundry room, whose water pipes screamed and groaned at a slightly intolerable pitch all day that magnified to deafening once the sun set and I tried to go to sleep. Now, I don't leave the house without those orange foam earplugs you can get at the hardware store. But then the only buffer I had between myself and the satanic churning and howling in the adjoining room was my phone. I left the house without my earplugs. I haven't since. Okay. I follow a bunch of Instagrams that are just pictures and the occasional close up video of whales doing whale shit, like drifting or feeding or surfacing or playing. And because I try to stay off the bad places on the internet, I spend a lot of time watching either sports analysis or arguing or clips of whales on BBC Earth, weeping because I get to be on the same planet as both wide receivers that can run 23 miles per hour and also 70-year-old humpback whales. This is some stoner shit for real. But have you ever just sat and thought about how there is an animal as big as a city bus and we're alive at the same time as them and we can look at videos of them doing things?
Hmm.
Yes, I am absolutely out of my fucking mind, but also, while you're on land reading this, there's a 100-foot long, 400,000-pound blue whale in the ocean right now, about to eat 40 million krill and migrate from Antarctica to the tropics, probably. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my God, yeah.
I like to take a couple gummies and when they kick in, lie on my back in the dark with a fan blowing on my face, window open even in the winter, and remain very still with some gentle water sounds going in my headphones, and imagine myself lying on a raft in the middle of the pitch black ocean, feeling the waves created by a whale swimming 6,000 feet below me. Then I imagine her swimming up and up and up until she's porpoising right alongside me, and it always sends a shiver up my spine and chills through my whole body. Because, yo, what would you freaking do if a whale was just cruising next to your soft human body? It makes me want to cry in both wonder and terror. Eyes squeezed shut, picturing a clear sky full of twinkling stars, lapping waves surrounding my body as the THC surfs my bloodstream. It's literally the scariest, but also kind of sexual feeling. Imagining being eye to eye with the largest creature on the planet and being completely at its mercy, and it just smoothly circles my flimsy little raft. This is some absolute stoner shit and my favorite way to drift off to sleep. I very much yearn for the chillness of whales. I'm going to say there's probably a paragraph missing connecting the white noise machine to the whales, and maybe it's in the book, but we're just going to go with that. You're getting my imperfect first
No,
draft.
it was great. And I am have to say again, we are on the Zoom platform, so it's just my one single like, aha. But it was beautiful, the
Thank
imagery of
you.
it, and like even thinking about like being scared and excited at the same time, which is a little sexual in a way.
Yeah.
Huge. So, like, could you imagine just a whale just like looking at you? Like, ugh.
Yes, I think about it all the time,
Yeah.
but like in a dumb way where I'm like, I'm so high. And then I like picture, you know, Shamu easing up and being like, what's up, girl?
Hey girl, what are you doing later? You don't need to be shampoo. You get out of here. That was great. I need to write down
Shamu's like, past the joint. I'm like, oh, sorry.
that. Shampoo since when? That was great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, please, thank you for listening to that.
We're gonna totally hang out after this, by the way, Samantha. I don't know if you know this. We're best friends. Uh,
Great.
Eliza Costel says, "Hello, this is the first time hearing about you, and you have inspired me. I'm
Oh, thank
already
you,
planning on reading
Eliza.
your books. What are some strategies or pieces of advice you have for upcoming writers?"
Okay, I hope this does not sound cliche because I say it all the time. But if today's the first day you've seen me, you haven't heard me say it before.
It's new to you.
Always have a job that is not writing because then you can write what you want. I never, and to me, that is the most important thing. I have never written, I'm not a journalist, obviously. I've never written for a publication. I mean, I've written like op-eds for the New York Times and stuff, but that's its own separate thing. I have never had to depend on my writing in the early days to pay for my life, which gave me the freedom to, write about diarrhea all the time, right? Because it's like, I, so since you don't know, I worked in an animal hospital for like 15 years. I worked in a bakery. I've had every sort of like service job you can have. And I always did my writing on the side. And the freedom that you get from not having to censor yourself or hold yourself back or stick to, like writing about economics because you're writing for The Economist or whatever. Um, if that is your job and you can get it, great. But if you are like writing your novel, um, I would take the pressure off yourself and your work to make sure that you are always working. Because having a place to write, having like money to get your little internet or your little, I mean, I worked on a netbook. Do people even have those anymore? They cost like $30 and all you can do is log onto the internet. Like I wrote my first book on like a $30. I didn't even have internet at home. I had to bring it to work.
Oh, dang.
Um, so all that to say that if you don't have pressure to make your writing produce for you, you can feel freer when you're doing it. That has been helpful to me. And you don't have to treat it like an insignificant hobby, like
Right.
just because you're not doing it for work. Like I always took my writing very seriously while, you know, making appointments for dogs to get their teeth cleaned.
Totally, totally. When I first started out acting, I worked at Red Lobster. Uh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah, that place just blows so hard. But it was that thing of like a professor told me once, like you have to go to work and then you have to do your life stuff, but you have to set time aside to do what your passion is, if that's what you
yeah,
want. And it really is just kind of organizing your time in a way that you can get that done as well.
yeah.
Was there something that you didn't expect from the writing industry?
Um, I have, I have had a really good post indie press experience. My books come out on Vintage, which is I was gonna say subsidiary, but that's the wrong word. It's under Random House. And they are small, they're paperback only, which I love. I love to have cheap ass books. It takes even more pressure off me to be good when I'm like, well, if you're getting this for $9 on sale, I'm I don't have to work that. It doesn't have to be literature. Um, so I have had an incredible experience with them. The thing that was most surprising, and this is not a bad thing, but at least at Vintage, my work has to be read by so many people. There are so many people involved. My editor has to read it. The publicity people have to read it. The marketing people have to read it. The sales
Oh,
people have
yeah.
to read it. And this is like as I'm turning it in before it comes out. It's not just like they get the finished book and they're
Right.
like, oh, look what we get to sell. Like they get the manuscript and they're like, I can't sell this. Um, Here's some behind the scenes. My We're Never Meeting in Real Life, which was my first major book, I wanted to title it Everything is Garbage because I that's very me. And I
Yeah.
thought it would be very funny. And the salespeople were like, no. And I was like, this is a collaborative thing that we all do. The title
Should I
of
put
my
you on the front
precious
too? Yeah.
baby. Oh, this is the thing we all get a vote on. But it makes it all better. Like a lawyer has to read my stuff because I write about myself. He has to make sure that I'm not going to get them sued. I
Mhm.
didn't realize how many hands shape a book before it gets to the audience. So if you hate it, you got to blame me, but also like
So
25 other people.
all of those people had a hand in this.
I'm like, oh, that wasn't me. That was Bob.
Somebody said, kind of going into what you were talking about, have you ever written an essay that your editor or publisher said what to that they didn't want to include for the publication?
No, but I mean, they know what they're getting, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not shocked. I will say I wrote the nun porn piece because my editor was like, there's no sex in this book. And I was like, well, I'm an old lesbian. There's not a lot of sex in my life's book. And like I've been married for 9 years. What am I gonna do? Um, so like she was like, you have to find something sexy to write about. And so I was like, okay, I'll write about these hot nuns. um One thing that does happen a lot is I really am indulgent, self-indulgent with words.
Mm.
And once I thought I turned everything in, and my old editor, I love her so much, but she got a better job, which I'm like, there is no better job than work with me, right? And she's like, wrong. Um, she once sent it back to me with 20,000 words cut.
That's
And
like
I was like,
people.
I was like, and she's like, yeah, replace those with better words. So they're never shocked, but they do. I mean, they will, put a boot in my ass if I have gone off the deep end. Or and like sometimes I'll float an idea by her, like I'm thinking about doing this, or what if I do that, and she'll just very gently be like, no. Like, okay. So at least she doesn't let me waste my time writing the things she doesn't want to read.
Yeah.
But if there's ever anything I'm not sure about, I'm like, Maria, what if I, and she'll be like, oh, Sam, that sounds like a good idea for your personal blog that I don't have to touch. Like, okay, girl, got it.
Heard. What's interesting is young Joy and older Joy handle rejection differently.
Hmm.
The crippling anxiety that comes with I did something wrong and I have no value as a person versus
Oh,
pretty much, I mean, still what I am now, but like I'm working through it. But
yeah.
like, is there how do you handle rejection? How do you deal with when someone wants to cut your baby in half? Like, how do you handle that?
I am, I'm never gonna fight. I'm very honest about, I only went to high school, right? Like I stopped my education, my formal education in 1997. I did a couple of stints at junior college, but like I really stopped learning in 1997. And I I I will always defer to any expert.
Mm,
Like they went to school, they have English degrees, they've made books before. I've never edited anyone's collection. I don't know the book market. So I'm very good about taking a note and deferring to an expert. Like if the person in charge of the, you know, of my writing is like, this doesn't hit. I got a note once in the margins from the copy editor. That's another person who gets to weigh in. And I assume it's a woman. I never meet them, but let's say she was
yeah.
like, uh, I don't think this joke is hitting the way you think it is. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, okay, Jay Leno, like what? Okay, let the plumber fix the sink. And then so I was like, girl, no, read that again. And she was like, oh, okay, I misunderstood. But other than that, I don't argue. If they're like, this isn't going to sound the way you want it to sound, or this won't be received however you want it to be received, then I defer. I mean, I hated having to write 20,000 more words, but that was just laziness. I wasn't, if it's once it's cut, it's cut, it's gone. I don't
Yeah.
worry about it. I don't even look to see what she cut. She just was like, this is 20,000 words lighter than what you sent. And I was like, okay, let
Thank
me
you.
think of something else.
Well, we have like about 15 more minutes left. So again, everybody, if you haven't had a chance to put a question in, put it in. I've got a nice little pile here, so we're gonna go through them. Caitlin said, "Hi, Sam. I don't really have a question. Oh, great, but but I love your books. I currently live in Minnesota, but I am
Oh
from
no, I will take this compliment all day. Yes, Caitlin.
I currently live in Minnesota, but I am from Kalamazoo. Listening to the Wow No Thank You audiobook and laughing throughout was a highlight of 2020.
Oh, thank you,
On one of my
Caitlin.
last visits home, I tracked down a signed copy of Quietly Hostile at This Is a Bookstore. It has a drawing of a whale smoking under a crescent moon, and I adore it.
Oh my God. Okay, well, that's incredible. I never know if people want my little books that I draw in. And it thrills me that you got one of those. Because some I just sign because, people don't care. But then sometimes I'll do a little doodle for special people to
Oh,
find. And obviously, Caitlin found one. She's very
Caitlin's special.
special.
Thanks, Caitlin. B says, do you have any say in your book's cover art? They are simple but pop, so distinctive and quirky, but in a subtle way. Who do we have to credit? Signed, a librarian who shelves your books.
Well, gorgeous. I'll tell you what. No, I don't. I do not pick the titles and I get no I get a limited say in the cover art. The designer is a woman named Joan Wong. She is incredible. She does covers, she does like those cool like the cool art you'll see like in the New Yorker or the New York Times. Like
Oh, yeah.
she she's just amazing. She's incredible. And I I had no ideas. I didn't say because again, I like to let the artists do the art. Um so my first editor commissioned a cover that I didn't like and I told her that I didn't like it in a way that I didn't think was rude, but apparently hurt her feelings.
Um,
So then my agent, who is the strict and mean daddy that I need in my life, um, was like, well, now that you hurt her feelings, whatever the next cover is, you're gonna like it whether you like it or not. And I was like, oh, okay. So then the yellow cover with the cat came, and I was like, I love it. It's so good. My worry, not even worry, but at the time I was just like, am I tricking people with this cover, right? Like, are people picking up this book expecting like, how to finger a woman instructions inside. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was my, and I was like, oh, I don't want little kids picking it up. But like I let it go. The cover tested well. All the sales and marketing people, the people who matter, liked it. And so then once we had that, they were just like, we could keep doing this same cover with different colors and different animals. And so now I suggest an animal or two or three and suggest a color, and they come back to me. The skunk on the cover of this book, I I requested a hissing skunk, and Joan made it real. The cat on the yellow book is two different cats blended together to look more disgusting. And the bunny on Wow No Thank You, she like manipulated to make him look mad. Like Joan is just incredible. So if you have any ideas for future books, let me know. Maybe we'll do purple. Maybe we haven't done blue. Maybe a blue.
You know, if you're gonna write a book about lesbians fingering each other, like what animal and what color would it be?
Well, I mean, I did red. No, that's disgusting. I'm sorry, everybody.
I'm sorry, everybody. All right.
What
So
color would it be? What animal would it be? An octopus?
like a salamander or something.
What has a lot of legs that can all be busy at the same time?
So okay, so do you have any life stories or observations about the world that you want to pour into an essay, but you have so far had trouble working through to the page? Like, is there something just like noodling in your brain that you're like, oh, how am I gonna get this out?
Well, I do have many political thoughts that I wish I was better educated to convey. Like not even political thoughts, but like I'd love to like roast the news more in my
Mhm.
work, but I also don't really know what I'm talking about. So that that's a limitation. Um and I mean, there are some, like I have some self-esteem issues that I get into, but I haven't really gotten as deep as I could. Here's one thing though. I was diagnosed with OCD a couple of years ago,
Oh
and I
no.
haven't written about it yet because I try to write about things once I like kind of know what they are, or
Mhm.
it's over, or I've reached like an ending spot and I'm still like deeply in therapy and trying to figure, well, I'm on good meds, but like just trying to get my shit together.
Yeah.
And so I would love to write about that if and when I can get to a point of clarity about it so that it doesn't feel basically like I'm telling you what I tell my psychiatrist, when I can like frame, when I make it feel like it happened to someone else. So
For there's a little bit of distance with it, a little.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much I won't get into. I mean, some things I can't get into because like I'd have to tell too much about other people, and if I got sued, I would die in the courtroom. So not to
Yeah.
not
That's,
doing that.
that's
But I am not too shy. I can write about I can get my way to most things.
yeah. Aisha says, what things you written about do readers ask you about most when they do, in fact, get to meet them in real life?
um oh, what do people, what people ask about a lot that is infuriating to me? Our dumb dog. People love, I'm like, are you kidding? He's the most boring creature that lives in my house. Why do you want to hear about him? People love asking me about the dog. I, the only thing I get nervous about is when people meet Kirsten, my wife, because I've kind of made her a caricature, you know? Like
Yeah.
she's all the things I say she is, and she does have like granola in her car, but I got to turn it up to an 11 in the book. And I get nervous that when people meet her, they're going to be like, this is not your actual wife. She seems so much less hippie and crazy than you portray her to be. Um, but yeah, people really want to know how the dog is doing. And I'm like, listen, come to my house and get him. You can know how he's doing all the time. You can take him to live with you.
He's yours. Oh, you lucky devil. Yeah. Carrie wants to know, when is the Samantha Irby, Dave Matthews romance book coming out?
Carrie, girl. I mean, I assume girl, but like Carrie,
Carrie person.
you say it and I'll write it. Oh my God. First of all, what if I wrote song lyrics for him? That's number one.
Yep.
Can I make that happen? I'm gonna try that. And then this is a secret, but I mean, it's not a secret. I'm about to tell all of you. I'm working on a novel, and it's not about Dave Matthews, but it does feature some Dave Matthews songs.
Hell yeah, dude.
So
Hell yeah.
honestly, if I could write him a rom-com like for him to star in, oh
Mhm.
my God. Or if I made a movie and he could do the soundtrack, okay, let's manifest this now that I am gonna get he knows who I am, and he does have a copy of this book, and he did send me a bottle of his wine. If you didn't know he sells wine, he sells wine.
Kidding.
Um so I feel like the universe is gonna make this
Yeah.
happen. It's gonna make me happy, and it's gonna make this happen. So light a candle for me to write something for Dave.
I just have to throw in there one more time that I felt so seen in your book, but also because you like Dave Matthews and I like Dave Matthews, and it
He's
is
great.
he's great, and his voice is beautiful, and like
It's
I
beautiful.
listened to that Crush song on
Ugh,
repeat. Like, and I was
God,
like, this is what I'm getting married to. My man is gonna
good.
sing this song to me.
Yes.
I just feel so seen by you,
Okay,
Samantha.
we're manifesting that too.
I mean, if you want me to come along, I can bring water. I can get coffee. I can do anything you need me to do. Looks like we got time for like one more question, and I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you, and just like that. How did you get tapped for that, and what was that experience like?
Oh my God. Well, it's so funny because the third season is coming out soon, and I just spent the reason I have this microphone in front of me today is I just spent the last 3 days like recording our podcast. We do a writer's room podcast, which is I have never listened to it because I can't stand to listen to myself, but if you are a glutton for punishment, you can when it comes out. I'm just kidding. I got the job because Elisa Zaritsky, who is an executive producer and writer on the show, read Wow, No Thank You, sent it to Michael Patrick King, and said, this is a person we need to have writing for the show. He got in touch with my agent. I was like, yeah, I mean, we didn't believe it. We were like, yeah, right. Um, and then like, after it was like really real, I had a Zoom with him, and I was wearing the ugliest striped shirt. Like, I don't even know why I owned it, but it was so, and like the Zoom comes up, and he's on the other side of the screen, and he's like, "Honey, that's a lot of look." And I burst out laughing, and we just like laughed together for an hour, and that he was like, "Great, I want you to work on the show." And
Wow.
that was it.
Wow.
3 seasons later, it is the greatest job. It is so fun. Uh, I mean, the actors are as lovely as you could imagine, both personality and beauty. Like, it's insane to be near them. Um, I often cannot speak if and SJ likes to talk about books and shit, and she'll be like, "So Samantha, I'm reading double," and I'm just like, "I love you." And thankfully she's not in the room so I can like get my work done.
Good.
But it has been so fun. I can't believe, I mean, wait until you guys see this new season. I cannot believe the stuff they let me get away with. And you'll know all the stuff that is from me when you see it. Um, yeah, it's like a dream come true. As an old like watching and the City on VHS tapes in 99, I mean, it's like magic that I get to work on this. And they let me do it from my house, which is my number one priority of life.
You win life,
No,
Samantha.
it's true.
You do. You've won everything. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us here. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Also great. That is all we have time for this evening. Thank you again, Sam. We know it's very busy for you, so we appreciate your time.
Not
Um,
that busy. Never too busy for you.
if you have that striped shirt that you wore in the meeting, can I borrow it?
I'll tell you where it was from. Off air.
Yeah, send it over to me. All right, everybody. This has been a virtual presentation of Club Book, a long-running literary series of Melsa made possible by the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Special thanks again to Dakota County Library for the part they played in bringing Sam to us. Before you log off, look for the Club Book survey link, which is in the comments and will be projected in place of my video momentarily. Last, consider joining Club Book on Tuesday, April 22nd for their next program. This one featuring best-selling romantasy author Mai Corlin, author of Five Broken Blades, Four Ruined Realms, and the forthcoming Three Shattered Souls. You can learn more about that and other upcoming events at clubbook.org. Everybody, Diet Coke is empty. Have a great night. Thank you. Does it actually stop? Because I mean, I can dance. Is there like outro music? That was fun.
Do you think people are just sitting watching us?
Should I take my top off and see? All the comments are like, whoa, my kid's watching.
Oh, you can just leave.
Oh,
Okay.
okay,
Well,
bye.
Joy, I will email you and we'll we'll talk.
That'll be great. It was so nice to talk to you.
You too. Good night. Good night, everybody.
All right, thanks, everybody.